Hello. Like I often say in my blogs, well, not often, but on occasion, this is going to be a bit different. I'm talking today about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. The left wing Hollywood crowd often delivers a message that they sometimes may not mean to do. And by that I mean with this movie. But before this one, let me talk about a Disney movie, Maleficent 2, which I wrote a blog about, and you can find that in my list of articles at tinyurl.com/JLD articles. That'll take you to my Before It's News blogs page tinyurl.com/JLD articles. Now, the Maleficent one came out years ago, so you may have to scroll down a few pages to get to it, but it's worth reading, in my opinion. And the main thrust of that was Disney, probably unintentionally, accidentally made a Christian movie. Why do I say that? Well, the underlying theme, whether they meant for it to be or not, is redemption. So the Hollywood crowd almost still can't help themselves. And really, we have to make note that this is in part because these are older stories. So if they're being true to the older stories at all, the older fairy tales, and even with the Marvel Universe, remember these characters and the main thrust of the themes and overriding narrative that they're weaving together goes back to the 60s, back when there was still morality. There is no morality left in Hollywood, of course, but weaving these tales, they're accidentally giving some of those moral messages still. Think of Spider-Man and the with those who are given great power have great responsibility. They wouldn't write that in Hollywood now. That's a leftover from the original comics. As to is sort of the theme of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, I have a friend, Ed Bondarenka, who likes to talk about and does so very well. He has a great pitch regarding Thanos and the moral versus immoral dichotomy there of and the real world applications of the depopulation crowd and the defeat of Thanos. With Doctor Strange, there is, of course, let's get this out of the way, the usual left wing fascistocrat identity politics pandering. Of course, there's going to be that. Let's put that aside. The new character and her my two mommies. Okay? Put that aside. You're going to get these left wing loon messaging and identity politics pandering in just about any film they make. But the bottom line in this movie is about mothers and their love of their children. Despite the left wing crowd's insistence that there's no such thing as gender and there's no such thing as a mother, they are just birthing people, which if you go to tinyurl.com/JLD articles, you'll see a blog in there about birthing persons, which you should go follow up and read. But a mother's love of her children, and in this case, a warped desire and need to be with them, a willingness to do anything to be with her children. That's certainly a left wing notion. Motherhood, parenthood, having children. This, the week of the leak of the potential overturning of Roe v. Wade. And there's really a movie out now about the bonds between a mother and her children. They wouldn't have dared do this on purpose. But this goes back to the original morality of the original comic strip content. And the writers, thankfully, are staying somewhat true, aside from, again, the identity politics, my two mommies thing, and the character wearing a LGBTQ flag, rainbow flag pin. Yeah, again, if you can overlook that, you will see the redemption at the end again in this movie. And I don't want to give too many spoilers, but my point here is thankfully the script writers are staying true somewhat to the original threads, which still have strains of moral stories in them. And Hollywood has shot themselves in the foot again with having another film that is contrary to their everyday arguments. There's no such thing as motherhood, and there's no such thing as gender, and there's no real bond between a mother and a child nonsense. And once you see the movie and get to the end, you'll understand what I'm saying here. And I just couldn't resist coming home. I just saw the movie at MJR Theaters in Southgate, Michigan. I couldn't resist. I thought of my friend Ed Bondarenka and listened to his radio show on Wham Radio. You can go to whamradio.com, listen live link on Saturdays. Look under shows to see when the show is, because his time is going to be changing soon. But he has a show called Your American Heritage. So please go to whamradio.com, look at shows, find Your American Heritage, and listen to my friend Ed Bondarenka. And I'm hoping he'll go into his Thanos thing again this weekend, this Saturday, tomorrow. Today is, let me look at the calendar, Friday the 6th, Saturday the 7th. I'm going to share this vlog with him. Hopefully, he will then feel inspired to go back into his Thanos explanation and then use that as a launching pad to describe this movie and the moral versus the immoral Hollywood crowd dichotomy. Thank you for tuning in. That's really it. I hope you will go check out my articles, my blogs. I do more of them than I do vlogs at tinyurl.com/JLD articles, or go to beforeitsnews.com and look for J. Leonard Detroit. Thank you. Take care. No, with the whole Roe v. Wade thing, I gotta make a statement about that again. The left knows that Roe v. Wade was a ill-fated ruling back when it was made. And even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said at the time it was a bad ruling and was going to be eventually overturned. It is a miracle that it took 50 years for that to happen. It should have happened at the Casey ruling, but of course they had a liberal activist packed court then, ignored the 14th Amendment right to life, ignored the precedent. You always hear liberals talk about Roe as precedent. Abortion must be legal in all the states now. That is precedent. Completely having ignored the precedent in law for decades prior that if a driver or a person with a gun or a knife murders a mother and her child while in the womb, that is double homicide. That is precedent that the baby in the womb had a right to life. They cannot deal in this logic and reason. That's why they're, of course, out there rioting in the streets again, because they only have emotional, hysterical reactions. They can't deal in logic and reason. The 14th Amendment applies. The precedent of the right to life of the baby of double homicide applies, and it is ridiculous that it took this long for Roe to be overturned. But you'll notice that the left, when they get a liberal activist ruling at the Supreme Court, that becomes the law of the land. You've heard that term before to them, and must be imposed on all 50 states. But this court, a constitutional court, deemed and recognizes also the 10th Amendment and that it goes back to the states. You will also notice with the left, they're always screaming about democracy, 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 and the vote of the people, but yet they oppose anything going to the states and you having your right to vote heard, your state elected officials actually enacting laws based on your representation at the state level. They call everybody fascists. They are the fascists. They want everything to be a federal fascist top down dictate. So I sorry I kind of gone off on a tangent here, but this movie, if you watch it right and get the point, a mother's love, a mother, a female only gives birth to children, and that bond, that is the point. How anti-abortion message is that? They shot themselves in the foot again. Thank you. Take care. God bless. Have a great day. Talk to you again soon.